Hi guys, welcome to Basement Supercar Build, the channel where we see if an average guy like me can design and build his own mid-engine car. This video will be a highlights video of the work that was finished this week. If you want to see the actual work take place, watch the full-length video for this week. And with that out of the way, let's get started on this week's video.
Well, this is the pile of wires that I deleted from this chassis wiring harness. And it's quite a few. Most of the larger wires, the ones that are twisted, are speaker wires. And there are a couple of red power wires, a couple of black ground wires, and then some smaller miscellaneous wires that went to some different sensors that I'm not going to use. And that finishes deleting the circuits on this chassis wiring harness. Hopefully I picked out all the right ones and removed them. They didn't look like they interfered with anything else. I am probably going to take some electrical tape and tape a couple places on this just to keep the wires neat and in place for now. But I'm not going to loom and rewrap this harness until I know for sure that it functions correctly. But we can add a little bit of tape and keep this thing manageable so I can start laying it out in the car and seeing which wire lengths need to be shortened, which ones need to be lengthened, and how it's going to fit exactly. You can see I've got some wires here that are going to cross somewhere. This is probably going to be about right behind the seats and just in front of the fuel tanks is probably where I'm going to have to make that cross. So I'll have to plan on that, and that'll kind of determine other lengths. But after, I think it's been 3 days of work, 2.5 or 3 anyway, that this harness is at a good point to start fitting in the car. The front harness we have already done. The rear harness didn't need anything deleted. The only harness that leaves right now is I have this small door harness here, but I'm not going to remove anything from it just yet. There'll be a few things that can come out of it, but not sure what yet. I'm going to have to add some things like speaker wires. I'm going to use an aftermarket radio, so I'll replace all the speaker wires that I removed because my amp will be in the front of the car and this one came from the rear. That leaves us this big harness here, which is the instrument panel harness. I'm not going to remove anything from it just yet. There's not many things that are going to be deleted anyway. There is a couple of yellow plugs here that go to a crash computer. Well, I have the main wiring harness, everything except an engine harness, laid out and spread across here, and I'm sure it's hard to see what's going on, but I've made all the connections and laid things out. It looks like all of my wires are long enough. Some are too long and I'll need to shorten them, but this is how things kind of lay out. I'll have one fuse box here in the front like the factory Corvette had. That allows me to make all the junctions here on the fuse box that I need to. The forward wiring harness comes across and connects to the chassis harness here with a couple connections. And then I have this forward wiring harness just laid across here. I'll have to shorten and possibly lengthen a couple of wires. We come across here. This is the wiring harness to the door. It's in the general correct area. I don't know where the end of the door will be, but somewhere in this general area. Wiring harness is laid across here. It'll be up underneath the dash of the car. It lays right here in front of this heating and air box. You can see it kind of dips down to the top of the console and then back up for clearance under feet. That allows it to make connections here. There's 2 different wiring harnesses plugging into this control box, whatever it goes to. It's for the heating and air, actually. There's several modules here that I just have dangling. They'll have to be mounted on the inside of that firewall, either on the front or maybe here on the side. I think some of both, actually. One wire comes up here. This runs up the pillar and goes to the overhead console in the center and the rear view mirror. Another connector here runs to this door. I will run these wires in a loom like this, and it'll be, it's kind of hard to see. and it will fasten to this side just on top of these seat rails. And my inside tub, the carbon fiber tub, will come over, you know, just an inch, inch and a quarter, whatever, and down. That'll be just enough to hide that wire loom across these edges. Have the same thing running on both sides. Come back here and split, and wires will run across. They'll be fastened to the bulkhead here behind the seats. They'll be loomed, of course, and neatened up really good. You can see the other wire running across the other rail over there. It'll be cleaned up and loomed and fastened to that rail. And then this side comes back here. These is the door mechanism. It goes to the door motors and latches. I'm not sure what all of that I will use, but I may use some of it. And continues on back through the firewall. There's a firewall grommet to a few other lights and sensors, and then on back to the rear light, wiring harness, which goes to the rear tail lights and side markers and a couple of things like that. There's another wire run that comes across in front of the engine over to this other fuse box and computer. I'm not sure what that computer is. It looks a little bit like an ECU, but it is not. And both of those will mount here on this bulkhead, probably down low. These are the battery wires. They'll have to be extended to go to the battery, which will be setting here in close proximity of those wires. It's close to the fuse box and close to the alternator. I think that's a good place for that. And that is everything except for the engine management system, which I'll have to buy from Holley. I've got to figure out exactly which one I need for this engine and get that ordered here in the near future. And once I have all the wires cut to length and where I'm happy with the harness, I will take this setup to a guy in Raleigh, and he says he can make them communicate and function together, so I'll take them to him and let him wire them together and get that ready. But it's going to be a little while before we do that. But he's confident he can make it work, so I am confident that he can also. Over here is discarded as the stock engine wiring harness that we won't be using. And I have a plan. Everything looks like it'll lay out this way and work really nice. So one of the next things I need to do is fabricate another tube similar to this, maybe not quite as heavy, that goes down below that tube and forward of that tube. It's just in front of the HVAC box, and it's where this wiring harness attaches to. Also supports the bottom of the steering column, and it supports the bottom of the glove box and dash over on this side, so it serves two purposes. I've seen pictures online of kind of how it's shaped. I'm going to shape mine similar to a factory one, but size it correctly for my narrower console in the center, where the tunnel is. Mine is a lot narrower because I've kept my seats closer to the center line of the car. And I'm not sure how I'm going to attach it on the ends, but it will attach to the end where the door attaches, the door hinge. Just not quite sure where that's going to be yet. I will be working on that in the future too. But there'll be a piece welded in that comes up, and this bar will go across and attach to that, and it'll tie into here with another bar. This is where the roll cage will attach, and then the door hinge mechanism, however it functions. I'm hoping for butterfly wings like a Lamborghini, or even a rotating door like a Koenigsegg. I think their doors open really uniquely. I'd like to mimic something similar to that if possible, but that's going to be a huge engineering challenge. But we'll see when we get there. And I'm happy where we're at so far with this wiring harness. And I guess that's it for today.